Hey, of course, what is going on to all of my freaks and geeks out there? It is me, Quita, aka Balasian Quita, and I want to welcome you back once again to another episode of Sin TV Gaming, where of course I bring you smart, intelligent news and gaming. So I know this looks a little bit different than what you are used to. You're used to seeing me playing games. You're used to me doing smart, intelligent news. But I wanted to do something that I really enjoy as well, and that is adult coloring books. Today, I just wanted to do a part of this picture that I'm working on in this coloring book. And the book that I'm going to be coloring from today is called Floral Coloring Books. And it's just all flowers. Now, usually when I color, I like to color things such as tattoos. And I'm really into a lot of multicultural coloring books as well. Excuse me. But you know what? I told myself that I really need to try something different, do something different, and get myself sometimes out of the coloring books that I usually get. And I have a lot of them. So if you would like for me to show you my adult coloring books, let me know. And I will. So, and on top of that, I'll give you an update with what's going on with Sin TV Gaming as well, and some other stuff that I wanted to talk about as well. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be coloring in this picture with what is called a watercolor brush pen. And what this is from Arteza. These are very affordable, if I can talk today. But this is how it looks like. So on one end you have this kind of brush pen like this. And then you have something here that says push. This allows the water to go in here. So what you do is you unscrew this cap and then you fill it up with water, and then this actually, if it's, I know it's kind of hard to see, but there's actually water that comes out of the brush. Now I ended up getting a 3-piece set. So this one is the small brush, then there's a medium, and then there's a large for much bigger areas that you want to color in. I am going to be coloring this in with watercolor, and one thing I decided to do is to give myself a head start, just because this takes a long time for me to do. I like to take my time. I like to make it look the best way possible. So what I'm going to be doing with these episodes is I'm going to be doing it section by section. I know one thing that many of you freaks and many of you geeks out there have told me is that you want a lot shorter episodes, but then some of you really like my longer episodes. So I'm going to do a little bit of both, especially on both of my shows. So you're going to get a longer episode sometimes, and then sometimes you're going to get a shorter episode. Today is going to be a shorter episode because I have to say I am very tired today. It has been a very long day for yours truly, but I wanted to make sure that I wanted to come on today and to do this for you. So and then, today too, we'll talk a little bit more about adult coloring books and how I feel about sometimes the negativity that comes with doing this and being into coloring books. Because coloring books are not just, a lot of times people think that coloring books are just for a particular type of person, and that's not true, because they make coloring books for like everybody. And the adult coloring books are very unique. It does, depending on what you like, there's something out there for you, and it does take time. So let's get into doing this. As you can see, I've been working on the bottom portion of this picture. I've been working on the actual vase part. But here are a couple things. You don't have to use watercolor. I'm using watercolor just to try it off. To try it out. There we go. To try it off. To try it out. Like, see, I can't talk today. This is what happens when you're out of it, all right? But I digress. So, with watercolor, it's a lot softer, but there are different intensities of watercolor that are out there. I actually just bought another type of watercolor to try it because I ended up getting these watercolors a while ago, and what I'm noticing is it's just not pigmented to really bring the color, out of the picture as I'm going along, and you will see that. So let's get into doing this, and hey, we're going to talk about a little bit of everything today. That is for sure. So the first thing that is very important is you want to make sure that you have some type of, like, I would say, whether it's some kind of like tissue or something like that, because one thing I noticed with these watercolor brush pens is too much water can come out of them. So for me to control it and to get a little bit more out of the watercolor, I tend to use a little bit of tissue to kind of lessen the amount of water. So let's go ahead. All you do once again is you push right here, and I will actually show you freaks this and geeks this too, so you can see how I'm doing this. So all you do, and the more you push, that's the more water that comes out. So just to be aware. So all you're doing here, I hope you can see this, is you just, okay, I'll come this way here. Let me go this way. Okay, there we go. There we go. So you just push, and as you can see, the water has moved in there. And then I just like to go to my tissue just a little bit, and then let's start wetting up this just a regular bright kind of yellow. And as you can see, a lot of water came out. But this time I'm going to actually use what are called they're called watercolor cakes, and apparently depending on which one you use, it gives you a little bit better like color payoff. So let's go ahead, and then this is all I do. This is why I'm using the small brush, and I just lightly go in. And sometimes with watercolor, depending on the color payoff, you may have to go back in a couple more times to get the intensity that you need. Because right now, as you can see, it is really, really intense right now. But when it dries, and I usually wait about like 24 hours, as it starts to dry, that's when you're going to really see the true color. And I have to say, this is just a beginner watercolor for me, because I know later on I will get a little bit better stuff. So as you can see here, you can blend different colors together with a brighter color, and that's what I'm doing a little bit there, blending it a little bit green. And then we're going to go over this other section here. But one thing about watercolor I have to say is that you have to be patient. You cannot, to me, I feel like don't even try watercolor if you don't have the patience to learn how to work with it and how to get control of it. And I'm still, trust me when I say this, I'm still learning how to control watercolor. And the more water you add to it, that's the lighter the color is going to be. So we're just going in there with that very, very nice yellow. But yeah, I don't know why there's a negativity sometimes that comes with doing adult coloring books. I think it's important for, especially for adults, to keep themselves artistic. I think that art allows you to be active, and being active is not only working out, which is important, you know, but here's the thing you have to consider. Not everybody wants to work out with intensity. The same thing can be applied to doing these adult coloring books, is that not everybody is doing them to be like a professional colorist, because there are people out there who do make adult coloring books professionally. One that I have to mention who is a personal favorite of mine is Johanna Basford. Now, Johanna Basford, for many of you who are not familiar with her work, she did what is called the well, she had a couple. I have like one of her books. It's called Magical Jungle, but she's known for what is called Secret Garden. And I really enjoy, I mean, first off, those books, the paper is very high quality. So you don't have to worry whether if you're using, you know, acrylic or if you're using watercolor, it's going to come out really, really well. And for me, I use adult coloring as a way to just to relax, and a way to like have a little bit fun. I think sometimes adult coloring, you know, I mean, they actually have contests for this too. And I think in the future, once I get a little bit better at like doing, you know, shading and things like that, I would love to enter like an adult coloring book like contest, just to kind of, you know, test my strengths and my weaknesses, and just seeing like where, you know, where my skill is, because there are a lot of talented adult colorists out there who, I mean, they make my coloring look like my coloring looks basic in comparison to them. I mean, theirs is just really, and as you can see, do you see how when you're playing around with color and shading and things like that, it really helps to bring the, you know, the picture really comes to life by doing that. So let me get a little bit more water here and really kind of spread out that yellow, and really get it to not be too intense. I mean, I want it to be a little bit intense, but not too intense. So we're just going to go through. And as you can see, the more times you go over your watercolor, that is the more times that, you know, you're going to get better color payoff. See, these particular watercolors I got were more of like your value kind of cheaper watercolor. So I'm going to have to go over this like one more time, just because I'm not going to go over the leaves and stuff, because that's the effect that I want. I want for the leaves to look, you know, a little more dead. And then once it starts to dry, then you can play around with texture too. That's how often I get some, because I know many of you ask me how I get the textures that I do. And that comes from, honestly, me just kind of waiting for it to semi-dry. But I think a lot of times adult coloring, some people take the fun out of it is when, you know, they get very particular. Like sometimes when I do episodes like this, people will like come for me and be like, oh, you're not painting in the lines. You should be painting in the lines. And, you know, this person does it that way. Why aren't you doing it this way? And it's like, you know what? I am painting for relaxation. It's completely different than painting for a competition or painting for, like, for professionally. You can tell people who have gone to art school and they understand color theory. I mean, it can make or break a picture if you're deciding to go that way. I paint out of just how I feel and what comes to me. And then that's how I pick my color selection and things like that. So that's what I tend to do. And then, of course, we have Got Ink Beauty. And Got Ink says it's starting to look pretty. Thank you. And welcome, of course, to Sin TV Gaming. And Got Ink has a very interesting question. And that is, how do I choose my color palette? And this is something where it's a very interesting process for me. Well, I think it's interesting. So this is what I do. So I'll look at the picture for a little bit. Sometimes I may look at it for maybe 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes I may look at it for hours even. It just really depends. And I'll look at it, and honestly, I really don't know how to say it, but the colors just come to me. And I'll look at the picture and I'll be like, you know what? This is it. These are the colors that are really going to work with it. And some people really have that ability of just looking at a picture and they just see, what colors like work for them, and it just comes to them just naturally. And that's a blessing for me that I'm able to look at it from that perspective. But there are some times where I do take my time in looking at it and really getting into it and really thinking like, okay, how would I want this picture to come to life? That's usually the first question that I ask myself is, I want this picture to come to life. And you don't have to paint in the lines. Sometimes painting in the lines makes it too perfect and it kind of takes away from the fun. And then adult coloring, to me, this is just my personal perspective on it, my viewpoint, it's supposed to be fun. I think sometimes adult coloring can be taken too seriously, and then what happens is you start to lose a passion for it. And I can personally attest to that, is that when I was kind of allowing the negativity to really, get to me, and the criticisms and that kind of stuff when I would be coloring, it really made me stop doing it. And I just got back into it recently, and I was like, I've got to get back into this. A lot of times you can just be inspired by, some people, they go outside and that's how, like, Johanna Basford, to me, she gets inspired by nature, but she also got inspired by a lot of nature books as well. And she uses her, like, nature books or biology books as a reference, and then she just takes the time, and that's how those pictures really come to life. But I always tell people, you don't have to paint in the lines. You want this to be relaxing. You don't want to be stressed out. You really don't want to be stressed out. It's not a good thing. It really is not a good thing. And that's something that I strive to do, is because it's like we already have enough stresses in our lives. You don't need to add an extra one to something that you enjoy. So if you want to start doing coloring books, the main thing that I suggest is, please do not care what people think. Just do what you feel is comfortable. Don't put pressure on yourself. You're not going to, get shading or some of those things overnight. Watercolor is something that you may have to go over, like what I'm doing right now. I'm going over watercolor right now. And it's just something that you may have to go over it a couple times to get the, you know, the intensity that you need. But I mean, overall, I think adult coloring is a great way to relax. I think it is a great method to, you know, to really just allow yourself to be creative, and you don't have to be creative based on expectations. I think that's the problem sometimes in regards to art and in regards to coloring, is that there's these ridiculous standards of art curriculum that you have to follow. No, you don't. The same thing with makeup. Look, if I want to wear yellow eyeshadow on my left eye and green eyeshadow or blue eyeshadow on the right or whatever, I'm going to look the way that I'm going to look because that's what I'm comfortable with. And art is the same way. You have to do what you feel comfortable with. And that's important to me, you know, at the end of the day. If I want to wear green eyeshadow, red eyeshadow, you know, I don't care. I don't think there has to be certain ideals and standards of beauty in order for art to be acceptable. I used to think like that, you know, like, see, that's there's like a lot of positives and negatives when it comes to education, and that is sometimes education can make you too linear, and then you forget to learn how to actually have creative thinking skills because you're so linear. Life is very non-linear, and I know that is a big debate till the end of time, but it really is. Like, I don't feel that you have to follow certain things. You can do it the way that, you know, you want to do it. And of course, Chandler, definitely, hey, congratulations to you. Chandler actually has her own business. So, hey, you know what? Let's be happy for her. Good luck with it, and keep doing what you're doing with it. Because, hey, having your own business, it's not an easy thing. So, good for you for doing that. Very good for you. And of course, Got Ink asked as well. Yeah, it truly does seem relaxing. I can tell in your tone. You can hear it that I feel relaxed. I don't feel like a pressure, you know, per se. So it is really nice. That's the thing that I like, you know, doing this, is that when I color, it allows me to just be. I don't have to follow, you know, certain criteria and things like that. So yeah, so we got the bottom part done here, which is nice. So, oh, and God Ink says, and since you mentioned it, your makeup has been awesome lately. Well, you know what? The only time I sweat is when I work out. That is my new saying now. I have stepped up in a lot of areas that I felt deficient in, and my makeup has always been this challenge. Sometimes my face is beat for the gods, and other times my face is beat for ugliness, and it's just like I'm trying to find this like happy medium, and you know, it really sucks. It really, really, really sucks. But I tell ya, you just, one thing I'm learning about life is like you just can't win. It's just like, you know, you're either really pretty or one day, or you feel ugly the next day. It's just, that's just life, you know. But you have to come to terms with the realism inside of yourself. And the only way to do that is through maturity. And that's something I believe, is that you really have to have maturity. If you don't have maturity, you are wasting your time. Like, you're wasting your time. So, okay, so that yellow looks really good. All right, so we're gonna move on to a different color. So you also want to make sure, I have next to me a little water tray, like a watercolor tray, because you definitely want to wash out the colors, unless that's the look you're kind of going for. You want like a multicolored kind of look. And then God Ink says, yes, hunty, hashtag gorgeous. Yeah, I'm trying to serve up as much as I can without being rude about it. Because I think a lot of times, like, when you take the time to appreciate yourself, you have confidence and you look good, it's like people just want to hate you for that. And it's just like, look, I'm just being me, okay? Like, I always tell people, take the time to do something that you enjoy in your life. Like, do not take the time to do something that is a waste of your time. And you know what a waste of your time is? Is just being rude to someone. That's a waste of your time. You could be doing something. I mean, for me, one of my favorite things to do, I love to eat. I love food. As much as I love working out and all of that, I'm not going to sit down and be rude. I'm going to eat some food, okay? So that's just me personally. So the next color we're going to go for is a little bit of a deeper green. I like green. Deeper green. Now, the only problem I'm having with these watercolors, though, is they kind of come out a little creamy. And sometimes when the watercolor is creamy consistency, it kind of comes off a little bit more softer. And then I have to paint over it. And it's annoying, It's like, it's horrible. So we're going to go in with this green. And like I said, it is a much deeper green. So this is how you want to blend with your watercolor. I go in with just a little bit more water, and then this is how I've been getting that effect. So do you see that? Like, you see that kind of, it's a little bit of like a gradient. So I use the water, just some plain water, and then I just keep going with that until the green and yellow kind of merge together and makes a beautiful relationship. How cliche. All jokes aside. But yeah, that's how I do that gradient. I set down the color that I want to blend, and then I take just some plain water. That's why having a watercolor tray is nice, because it really does help with this. And then you just want to go in little light kind of strokes, and then you go a little bit over the yellow. At this point in time, you don't want your watercolor brush to be too saturated with the green. You want it to kind of look like it's a little bit faded, just a little bit. Not faded like, some bad hair extensions, but like faded as in soft, as it's like kind of coming apart a little bit. That's what you want. That's the look that you want. So that's what I do. So then we're going to go in a little bit more intense here. Go a little more upward. But I am really liking these watercolor brush pens, because you know why? It saves me so much mess. I remember when I was using brushes. When I would use brushes, I would have paint, water, just horrendousness everywhere. And it was so bad. It was so bad. It was just like, I wanted to cry. It was so bad. I was just like, no! That is not happening. So if you want to leave it like that, you can. If you want to go in with a little yellow, you can put, but I'll probably leave it like that. I'll see how it looks like when it dries, but I think it looks really good. You get that half and half. Look at you. Chandler is just, she is giving everything, right? No, no, I know. I love that that you guys talk amongst each other. It's great. I really like that. So Chandler told me that you did an awesome mirror review that I must see. Well, go see it. it. No, I'm being ridiculous. But yeah, I did do a mirror review on my other show, which is called the Curvy Metalhead Show. So if you're into more of metal kind of beauty, if you like more of the alternative type of stuff, then you want to go check out that show. And there is this makeup brand that I love. And I've talked about them so much that I'm going to continue talking about them. They are called Gui Vanchi. And I did a review on their one piece makeup mirror. It's a LED mirror actually, and it is pretty sweet. You can control the amount of light intensity, and yeah, it is absolutely like it gives me life. Okay, it gives me life. But yeah, it is looking really good, and I wanted it to look just a little bit dead, kind of like the fall, but with a little bit of life. With the flowers, I'm gonna really add some interesting colors. I'm not gonna just do it all green and yellow because I think that would take it away. I'm just gonna focus on the leaves being that color, and giving this kind of dead look to it, and then I will add um, more color to give it more dimension. But yeah, let's work on these leaves today. So the orange that I'm using, it's kind of like this, the best way to describe it, it's like a golden yellow kind of orange. It's really, really nice. And it's almost gone because I've been using it a lot. It's like my favorite watercolor in this entire set. You will see why. So this is how I do a leaf, so you can see this. So the first thing that I do is I just go in and I form where I want the accents to be. So I just put it in like this, and then I let it dry completely, and then I go in with the secondary color. Because once you let it dry completely, then it helps it to give it some life here. So here, I think I'm just going to go a little bit here and a little bit there, not too much. So not too much. But yeah, if you really want to see that mirror, it is something to see. It's very interesting. It's small. It's very compact. It's not too big. And I have been using it a lot this week. Maybe that's why my makeup looks better. I gotta cover this Grim Reaper face somehow. Uh, but all jokes aside, I'm being ridiculous. But okay, so we got another leaf here. And this one I'll make it a little more intense. Just a little bit more. Yeah, so I'm just kind of placing where I want the effects to be, and then I let it dry. That's it. Like that's all I've been doing. And yeah, and hey, you know what, Chandler too, I really appreciate it. I did do an interview with Lena Dawes. For those of you who are not familiar with her, she did the book What Are You Doing Here? She is probably one of the strongest women, to me, a woman of color in metal today, and she's well educated, which is emphasis well educated, because I keep telling each and every one of you, education is important. When people say that education makes you stuck up, please, that is ridiculous. What education does is it allows you to think outside of just status, just plain status, like groupthink in a way. For those of you who are not familiar, groupthink is this idea of just, it's called the bandwagon theory too, where you're just thinking like everybody else. And I think any good educational program is going to allow you to get outside of that and to not repress your ideas, because to me, no idea is a stupid idea unless it's coming from ignorance, and that's just me personally. But overall, that interview to me was very it was an interview done out of realness, and I think that's why that interview was done well. I will be having interviews and stuff on both of these shows. I'm working on it. It's just been trying to kind of figure out how to do stuff again, because I'm pretty much like, this is all like new, new to me again. I haven't done it in a long, long time per se. So it's kind of like everything's new to me, which is nice, because I don't feel that stress like I did before. And I think that stress, like where it was coming from, was trying to make everybody happy. But to be honest, I'm doing this show because I enjoy it. It's not me saying that, oh, I'm better, but I'm actually doing it because this time around I'm doing it because I enjoy it, and not because, some people want me to be this way and other people want me to be this way. And I think that's the difference. I feel a lot happier because of that, and I'm just doing what I feel is right for the show, and I think that's what's kind of helping, to be honest. But yeah, thank you for that. It was one of my favorite interviews to do, and I'll definitely be doing stuff like that on my other show in the future. I really, to me, it's very important for me to always do interviews out of intellectualism, and not to do an interview just for the sake of doing an interview. And you can clearly tell an interview that's being done out of like, it's just real, it feels natural, versus doing an interview just for doing an interview. You can tell the difference. I mean, anybody who's intelligent enough can tell the difference. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that, Chandler. Um, that really means a lot to me, that you checked out that interview and you liked it. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so let's keep going here. Let's get back into the leaves. So I think, hmm. Okay, I did do this other green, and the other green is too dark. So I think, okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna do like half and half. So I'll do this green with this green on top. Yes, this would be good. Okay, so let's get these both really wet. Okay. All right, let's try this here. So some of these leaves, I'm just going to do like solid green. But see, this is a very light green. And if you're using lighter colors with watercolor, as a forewarning, you will be doing this multiple times. Just saying. You will be going over like multiple times. But the one thing I will say about Art Iza's stuff is the brush is very easy to work with. I don't feel like I'm losing control. Like it's really, really nice. And that's why I'm excited to try out the new watercolor set. It should be coming probably this weekend. So on like maybe like Saturday or something like that. So yeah, gonna be showing that for sure on the show here, for sure. Okay, and let's see, is there another, oh yeah, here is another leaf. I think I'm gonna leave that too. And sometimes too, when you're coloring, it's okay to leave a white like area, because then it kind of helps to bring the picture out. So of course, Chandler, I appreciate that question, but I am not going to answer that question. So thank you for it, but it's just a question that I am not going to answer. So appreciate it though. All right, so let's see here. What do I want to do? Okay, so this is dried now, but I'm going to need a little water. Okay, so let's use the water here because I don't want it to be... There we go. I don't want it to be too intense on this side. Yeah, this is what I wanted. Exactly. Okay, so as you can see, it's just really, this is how you want to blend your watercolors together. Just add a little bit more water because it thins out the color. So then it gives more like, it gives a little bit more dimension to it, which is good. Alright, so let's try this one. So we just want to go around. So pretty much you're outlining where you have your highlights with the darker color first, like that. That's what you want to do. And then you want to go in with just kind of like clear water. And then you just want to kind of go over it, but you still are kind of blending it out. I mean, coloring is just like, it's very similar to putting on makeup. It's the, it's not the makeup that you're using, it's the tools that make a difference. Okay, now what I mean by this is not that you go and get ridiculously expensive makeup brushes. No, same thing with art. Like when I started doing coloring, I thought that I needed to get these really super expensive, ridiculously priced stuff. And you don't. I mean, if you like markers, Amazon has these things which I'll be reviewing. They're called super markers. And you get like a pack of 100 for like $30. $30. And then Arteza, which I just bought some today too. They actually make these really, really, really thin, detailed. They're called like fine tip markers. So that's really good for getting into those really, really small areas too. So, and that was like around what, like $10. So you really can't beat that. And yeah, I mean, it's really, it was just really interesting to me to see um that you could get really affordable art supplies. You can even go to Dollar Tree too, and they have some decent like art supplies as well. But when you're first starting, my mistake was I went out and just bought all this stuff. And I really didn't need to because now I have more than what I need. Like I literally have over 100 oil paints, probably over like 100 watercolors. Like I have a whole tons of stuff. The main thing I'm focusing now on is just buying the books. And then that's what I'm going to be using to do stuff like this. Okay, so let's go over this one now. So once again, you just want to lightly You want to go over like that. And then you may want to kind of blot the color out a little bit. Blotting is very important when you're blending with watercolor. And then the other thing that helped me too was going over like different types of art lessons. That really helped me tremendously. And learning kind of color theory too. That really helped as well. I'll go a little bit there on the side here. Like so. That's, hey, it's looking really good though, I have to say. Not because I'm doing it, but just saying. No, I'm being ridiculous. I can't have like, I don't know, I can't have attitude like that, you know. I couldn't be a drag queen 24/7 like that. Like no way. Okay, so this one I'm going to go just a little bit lighter on because I want to kind of little bit emphasize that yellow there. Alright, so we got the water. And then we just go over, really thin out where that green is. Get at those leaves. Now, for this one, just because I took too much green, I'm going to have to go back in with the yellow. With that marigold color, like from before. And get this to come back out. So if you make a mistake with watercolor, do not worry because you can always add it in. So as you can see, I'm adding in that yellow color right there because I wanted for the yellow to kind of overpower the green a little bit more. And you can always blend that out. It's the same thing with makeup. Like for me, what I do is I take my day look and then I make it like this, which is into more of a night look. So if you want me to show you how I go from the day to the night, let me know. Yeah, it's pretty it doesn't take too long, but I gotta make sure I'm blending everything. And let me tell you, brushes make the difference. Like for me, the more control I have in my brushes, that seems to be the better that my makeup is. Now I have my other brushes that I showed on Instagram from Givenchy, so definitely check it out. They are very nice, very nice. And I have my bigger face, like the bigger facial brushes, but those usually take about 72 hours to dry because I actually like tried them out to to check to make sure they were fully dry and they weren't dry yet. So now I know when I'm washing these, I'm gonna make sure that I take that I know that I have another set of brushes to use. So I'm gonna get one more brush set as like my backup brush set when these are drying. So no, I have not seen that movie actually. I have not seen it. I will have to put it on my list and watch it. I have not really watched a lot of movies. I've really been watching a lot more TV than movies. It's weird for me. Usually I'm watching movies, but I also have been watching a lot of documentaries, especially documentaries revolving around metal. There are a lot of really good metal documentaries out there, so I've been watching some of those, and I've just really been kind of like just relaxing. Really, I haven't really had the time like I used to be like watching a lot of things. It kind of sucks though, but that's life, as they would say. That is life. Okay, so oh, that's also a good vampire movie. I'll have to check that out too. Yeah, there's a lot of really good vampire movies out there. A lot of them are not even that well known too. That's the interesting thing. So then we're gonna go on this leaf here, and I just want to really kind of emphasize on the yellow here. And usually what I do is with my tissue, I kind of turn like the brush like this to get off as much of that color, the watercolor, as I can, and it's working actually. Is But I will say these brushes do stain after applying the color, so I have to find a way to really clean them, because you can't clean these like how you would clean your makeup brushes, just because the hairs are like very delicate, or in this case the fibers are very delicate. um, so okay, I'm gonna go back in with that marigold color, gold color, because I want A little more yellow on this side. A little more gold on this side. Get just water this time to kind of blend it out. Because once you get more into coloring, you kind of get into you want to blend and stuff like that. Because the blending makes it look softer, and it just makes it look a little bit more like realistic. So and the more water that you use with watercolor, though, that's the more washed out it can look too. So you just want to be a little bit careful, but you learn how to blend with watercolor with a lot of practice. Like, I seriously have been practicing a lot. And the more pictures you color in, of course, that's the better. I mean, some of the pictures that I did when I first started, they look horrible. And it just took me some time to really get into it. No, I haven't actually watched that particular K-drama. I've been really focusing on finishing Vampire Prosecutor because I really want to do that for the other show. But for Sin TV Gaming, I think I'm going to get back into doing, the crossover thing that I'm going to be doing is Ratchet or Classy, where I watch a whole season of a show, so it could be reality TV or something like that, and then we'll go over it intellectually and see if is it a really good show for television, or is it something that's just ratchet and it should not even be on television. So we'll be going over that. I think excuse me, I think R&B Divas is a great show to talk about overall, just because all of these women are just super, super talented, but they're human. And I think a lot of times when people think about singers or when they think about celebrities, they kind of just think of them as not being human. But a reality check is they are human, and that's why I love R&B Divas, because it really shows that these women, they fight, they have disagreements, and they are very talented. They can, I mean, the one that really breaks my heart the most, though, I have to say, is Kiki Wyatt. I love, if you guys have not, if you freaks and geeks have not seen Kiki Wyatt's latest music video called Jodeci, it is the business. Like, I'm sorry, you need to go and listen to that song. She is absolutely talented. She is really a very underrated vocalist. I think everybody just knows her as, the woman who sang with Avant, and that's it. But Kiki Wyatt, as a vocalist, as a singer, she can stand on her own right. And this is just how I feel personally. The only reason why Kiki Wyatt has not reached the level that she needs to be is just because I personally feel people are not giving her a chance, just because of seeing her on R&B Divas and how, like, goofy she is. But that's just her personality. Like, I get that all the time. Like, people don't think that I can be serious, but I can be serious. It's just I'm the type that I'm serious when I need to be serious, when the situation calls for it. But overall, I laugh. I'm making fun of people. I'm joking around. All in humor. All in humor. That's just who I am. So that's why I think me and Kiki have a lot in common. Of course, you got the fantastic Faith Evans on that show. Faith Evans really is, besides Angie Stone to me, she's really the wisdom on the show too. Both of them are, because they've been there, they've done that, and they have had to they both really had to put themselves through a lot of nonsense to get where they are. I mean, Angie Stone is the original, the legendary, okay, legend. So she knows exactly what she's talking about in regards to the show. But we'll be getting to that. I'm watching it right now. There were multiple seasons. There was R&B Divas, then they did like R&B Divas Atlanta, and there was one more before it got canceled, I believe. R&B Divas got canceled. But it is a really, really good show. And I think it's one of the better shows that have people of color on it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it still gets a little bit ratchet, but it's not as bad as like Love and Hip Hop. I mean, Love and Hip Hop is just. I stopped watching it because it was getting so ridiculous. So, yeah, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, though, I have to say. All right, so let's do, for the last couple minutes of the show here, let's do a flower. So I'll show you what colors that I'm going to be using. So since this month of June is, of course, definitely give shout outs to my LGBT, like I always say, alphabet soup. Um, freaks and geeks out there who love this show, who support this show. In honor of them, I am going to be doing this with the colors of LGBT. So the first color, of course, or as they call it, Pride, because for those of you who are not aware, June is LGBT month or Pride month, and it's just a remembrance as well as a reflection of the contributions of LGBT people in our society. Now, I am not LGBT myself, but I will always respect people who are intellectual and who really stand for what they believe in, and I believe LGBT people personally do that. And even if you're not LGBT, if you stand by what you believe in, I respect you. You know, I will respect you. So in honor of that, let's do the colors here. So the first color, of course, is red, and that's going to be the first one we're going to start off with today. And this is kind of like an orangey kind of red. It's not like that really, really bright red. I just want to kind of try something a little bit different here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to just kind of putting little strokes, around the first part. Okay, and then just a little bit in here. Just going all around. These are just kind of like my highlights in here. That's what I'm pretty much doing. Okay, so we got red. Okay. And then, of course, I'm going to use a blender kind of color. So a blender color is going to be a little bit lighter. It's something to just kind of blend it together here. So what I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to go in with this kind of a little bit lighter yellow. And just kind of put that in between there. Because this yellow is not as like intense as the other yellow that I was using. So we'll just put that in. And I'm just softly kind of brushing over it. See, this is going to take a little bit of time. So that's why I decided to do these like episodes kind of section by section, because what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to wait for it to dry. Wait for it to dry and then go over it again. So I'm just kind of going over it. And see, here's another kind of tip I will say. A lot of times people want to be, you know, kind of perfectionist with this, and they want to color in every line. Who has time for that, right? So you can just go over it and add little accents here and there, as you can see, and it helps to make it look as if it's fully colored. And all I'm doing is I'm just kind of going over it horizontally instead of vertically. And then of course you can just get some plain water, and then this is where it really starts to kind of come together, and you just start to really blend this out. That's why I said, if you're doing adult coloring books, you know, if you really want to kind of add a little kind of differentiation to it, you're gonna have to have some patience. Just because. Okay, so we'll just keep going over it. Just keep going over it like so. And do a little bit of that yellow there. Do that. Go a little bit over there. And then another thing, the paper is not really good in this particular coloring book. So what I had to do was I had to kind of add like, I honestly had to add about 3 to 4 sheets of paper so it would not seep through to the other picture. Okay, so we're just going to add that yellow in there. Just really kind of fill it in. And once I finish this flower, oh man, like I cannot wait. It's just going to look so cool. It's kind of playing around with a little bit of texture there. And then if you really want, we can add that gold color, that kind of marigold color like I was mentioning before, to kind of make it a little bit more, give it a little more pop on the inner part. And then for this particular area, these little kind of like dots in here, I'm just going to just color them yellow. Add a little bit of that deeper yellow in there. But for the flowers, they do take time. You're gonna have to go over them a couple more times before you really start to see the flower really come out of the to kind of come out a little bit more. You can add, like, I probably will add, like, I'll show you what I mean by this is I'm gonna add a little bit of orange in here, like mainly on the inner part here. Just kind of filling it out here, just the inner part. Not anywhere else, just here in the inner part of the flower. Because what that'll do is it'll kind of give a little bit of focus to the center part of the flower. And then you just kind of blend that out. Okay. So as you can see, this is a lot of work to do this. But it's worth it in the end, though. I always say it is totally worth it in the end. Okay, there we go. I was like, I need to get some more, a little more yellow, a little more water. And I will be working on this too, like kind of in between episodes, just because of the time it takes. Because it would literally take me probably hours on end to really kind of get this like complete. But as you can see, that is the first flower there done. And then the other one I will do purple, like different shades of purple there. But yeah, so that is the first flower done and done, as they would say. Yeah, it's coming together really nicely. I really like it. I'm gonna intensify it with a little bit more of the red combination in there, but I have to let it dry first. That is the key to watercolor. If you want it sometimes to really look really nice and soft and put together, you're gonna have to go over it a couple more times. So this part I went over, as you could see, I went over it twice today. And then for the leaves, I went over it again twice. So it is coming together. The flower I'm gonna have to probably go over twice as I'm like sliding out of my chair here. But hey, let's conclude today's episode. I'm gonna go get some rest, take this stupid makeup off of my face. I've been wearing this makeup all day. I'm probably, I might as well call myself RuPaul, okay? But with that, let's get into the conclusion for today's episode. We talked about a little bit of everything. I gave some updates, a little bit of this. But you know what? To me, adult coloring is fun, okay? Emphasis on fun. I think sometimes adult coloring can be taken way out of control. It can be taken too seriously. Do you have to paint in the lines? If you want to, that's fine, but you don't have to. When you have to think about, coloring in a stressful way, that completely defeats the purpose of adult coloring books for relaxation. And to me, this is relaxing. It's supposed to be something that's fun. It's supposed to be something that is enjoyable. It's not supposed to be something that is like, it's stressful and it makes you feel uncomfortable. Like, that's not, to me, what it is about. It's about having fun. It's about enjoying art. And I think it's important, especially for adults, to continue to be artistic, because the more artistic you are, to me, that's the more fun you're having. That's the more you're allowing yourself to try new things and to do things and to think outside of groupthink, at the end of the day. And also, I was speaking a little bit about education, and I have to say this. Look, many times people say, what is success? How can I become successful? All of these things. Well, to me, success is taking the time to educate yourself. Okay? Too many times, especially, people always kind of talk to me a little bit about, rock and metal, and, they want to get into rock and metal. That's fine. But you also have to make sure you have other aspirations besides just being a singer. Because I'm sorry, I don't mean to, not I'm not trying to say that, oh, you'll never make it, because that's ridiculous. But you have to be realistic that, if you want to be a singer, you have to it's a commitment. You got to put everything into it. You have to sometimes stay up all times of the night practicing, working on your voice. You may have to get into choreography, how to be a good dancer. I mean, Jennifer Lopez and Lady Gaga and Cyndi Lauper and even Joan Jett. I mean, none of these women would be where they are if they didn't really put their all into what they do. And a lot of people, who like rock and metal, as you can see, or even, even if you're into geek stuff too, a lot of them are very well educated people. Now, education could mean, it could be, getting a degree, but it can also mean taking the time to make sure that you're knowledgeable about the thing that you want to be good at. And this is why I always tell this. I'm telling you, there's so many different generations going on in our society right now. I just have to say this. Please educate yourself, especially to my people of color. Please educate yourself. You don't want to be a stereotype? Get an education. Be more well spoken. Carry yourself with decency. And when you do that, people respect you. People put you to a higher consideration. And then on top of that, you have to stop caring what people think. And that's something that I personally struggle with, is because for me, I like being myself. I like being me. I like doing the things that I do. But when you get put down, it can really bring you down if you're not strong. And that's something that I struggle with, of course, every day. But I have to remind myself that intelligence takes you a very long way. And if you respect yourself and you are someone that's a lifelong learner, life is more enjoyable than trying to kind of follow groupthink and to just think like everybody else. That's easy. But sometimes when you choose to be intellectual, it can be lonely, and it can be tough because you are taking it upon yourself to think outside of groupthink. And to me, that's what's important at the end of the day, is you still have your beliefs and values that make you who you are, but you should always strive for, as they always have that saying, strive for success or strive for greatness. And greatness comes from hard work, and it comes from determination, but it also comes from education. Just saying. This is just me. I mean, I'm not saying that education equals degree, but I personally feel more, and this is just my opinion, more people of color should be going that direction. Because the more of us that do that, that's the better impressions that are out there, and as the less stereotyping that every other generation has to deal with. Something to think about. So with that, I am going to take this makeup off. I am going to relax and get myself some well-needed, well-deserved rest. But like I always say, remember to get smart and stay informed.